should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it! It's the best thing going today.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 84 of Top Rope Nation, your source for the best professional wrestling talk. My name is Ryan Drosty of comicbook.com. I am happy to report I am joined once again by both of my co-hosts this evening. Let me throw it out immediately over across town to the biggest Boston Celtics fan I know, Mr. Justin Joint. What's going on, Justin?
Not much, but it was certainly an ideal trade deadline for the Celtics.
I didn't even see what happened with the Celtics, honestly. I haven't been following the last couple hours. Anything exciting happen?
Anthony Davis didn't get dealt. Which means the Celtics have a shot at him now.
Okay. Is he on their list now or on his list of acceptable teams?
Nah, but once he wins a title next season, he'll want him to resign.
Yeah, there you go. Kyle Ross, who's in basketball Siberia with his Cleveland Cavs, along with my Chicago Bulls. Kyle, hoodies up to represent the cold weather that is coming for Cleveland. What's going on?
Not much. And I've got no inside reference this week.
You're not going to go contrarian on me this week?
Oh, I might. Sure I just, for granted. I don't think that's on the inside anymore.
I'm sure you will. So, like I said, it's episode 84, Top Rope Nation. If you like the show, go ahead and hit us up on iTunes. If you're watching here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We got a lot of new viewers as of last week, so that's been exciting to see. So hit the subscribe button, like the video, let us know what you think of the show down in the comments. And, of course, check us out on all the podcasting services, whether that's iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, wherever podcasts are found, and of course, topropenation.com as well. So, guys, we kind of pushed back.
I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know what I was going to say. Now that we're back to the original lineup, I can go back to being the best looking man in the Top Rope Nation.
Oh, man. Justin, would you agree?
I doubt he's ever been on a billboard.
Oh, that is true. That is very true. Shots fired. Justin Joint featured prominently on more than one billboard in his day. In fact, one time I was buying a new car and I'm just sitting there like in the cubicle and I look out the window and my God, Justin Joint across the street is looking down at me from a billboard. True story. True story. So, Justin, we're happy to get your good looks back on the broadcast this evening. Are you feeling better, by the way?
Better, not great.
Yeah, I can tell. He's been under the weather. Couldn't join us last week, but we had a pretty good show with Chris Van Vliet. So if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely hit it up.
Looks better than Jericho.
What's that?
Looks a lot better than Jericho.
Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to get to that because we pushed back the recording tonight because of the Double or Nothing pool party in Las Vegas. And so
nobody went in the pool.
It's 45 degrees in Las Vegas tonight. Very chilly. Might surprise some people, but yes, it does get cold in the desert in February in the evening hours. So I guess right away, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on what we saw. I thought it started off pretty good with Cody and the Bucks. Now, I will say, I think AEW's got to do something about their broadcast team, and not the best broadcast team there. I don't know if you guys would agree, but Alex Marvez and Conrad. What's that?
The production overall, I thought, needed a little bit of work.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most exciting broadcast, but it's sort of okay. They had like the star power with Cody and the Bucks out there right away. Then it kind of took a nosedive for a while. They brought out some women's wrestlers that I don't think everyone was familiar with. They brought out some Chinese wrestlers. They announced their working relationship with AAA, which is a pretty big deal out of Mexico. They'll be bringing in some luchadors. Pento was on the show. Of course, that was a big signing for him. And then, yeah, it just kind of hit a lull. And then finally at the end, we got what everyone was hoping for. Kenny Omega came out, and soon after, Chris Jericho to attack him. So let's just go around the horn here and see What were your first impressions of the pool party? So, Kyle, you were speaking out. What'd you think, Kyle?
My impressions was it was very much a vehicle for a promotion that has no TV to set up a major show. And that's what it was. Like, I don't think it was anything. The most interesting thing to me is, again, that dirty word expectations. It's kind of funny because this was a show built on quote unquote surprises, or a press conference, if you will, built on surprises. But none of it was very surprising. Like, I think everyone was just assuming we were going to get what we got. You know, we knew the Lucha Brothers signed. We knew Omega was coming. So I don't really necessarily think, you know, even the best friends, we knew that was a done deal. So that's an interesting thing moving forward to watch with this promotion, because it caters to such an quote unquote insider audience. You know, when people know a lot of what's coming, you know, it's not that surprising. So I think if people were waiting to be shocked, wowed, it to be some earth-shattering thing in the history of pro wrestling, you're probably feeling left disappointed. But as a vehicle to set up the Double or Nothing show, I think it was okay. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Did you think the
set up
matches,
like 4 matches?
Yeah. Now, what I was going to ask is, do you think the matches they set up and the names they had out there before Kenny came out was good enough to sell at the MGM Grand? Because I kept thinking it wasn't. I don't know. It was kind of underwhelming, and I was starting to wonder, like, is this actually going to sell out? And they definitely need Kenny to sell out, and they got Kenny.
Apparently, the website like crashed. I mean, there's interest. I mean, I don't think they should be concerned right now about interest.
Yeah, but they do need a strong lineup to sell. What is it? 15,000 tickets. MGM Grand probably holds right around.
Yeah, and I don't know if, you know, even with Kenny, Kenny and Jericho too, I don't know if that's enough to do substantially better business than they were already going to do.
Yeah, but Kenny is that big name out there right now that is going to draw a lot of people. Like, he's the biggest name in the promotion easily, I think, among wrestling fans. Now, Jericho obviously has been around for a long, long time, but Kenny Omega is way hotter than Chris Jericho right now.
Well, I just think the promotion itself was going to be the draw. I don't know if with Omega on Jericho, like Omega versus Jericho draws substantially better than Omega versus whomever. And I don't know. I don't know if Kenny on top draws better than what they were going to do.
Yeah, like, I was going to say the concept there is Kenny's on the show, right? Without Kenny, I don't know. I don't know without Kenny what happens.
I mean, I guess just because he's another big name. I don't know if it's Kenny specifically. I think right now the interesting thing is who's Cody working.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough.
Yeah. What's your take on all this, Mr. Justin Joint?
I'm going to warn everybody that I'm tired and grumpy, but goodbye and good night is the lamest sing-along catchphrase I've ever heard in my life.
That music wasn't good either.
That was my big takeaway.
Yeah, that's the song they use on Being the Lead at the end. So, I don't know. I was excited to see him. I expected him to sign there. I think they need him. They advertise him as like one of the executive vice presidents. Of course, he's going to be one of the guys in charge. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, as Kyle mentioned, their website they announced during the broadcast had crashed because they unveiled that you have to go on there to register for a pre-sale. And then on, I think, Monday, they'll send you a link or a password to buy tickets before the general on sale, which I think is Wednesday. Could be mistaken. Sometime next week. So that's May 25th, which I think is a Saturday evening, their first show, and then they'll be rolling forward, and hopefully they got a television announcement before then. Seems like that's coming fairly soon, within the next month or two. So we'll see what happens there. But they have to unveil a whole lot more shows after that. We know maybe Seattle's coming. They announced Jacksonville, and if you follow them on Twitter, they have followed a lot of kind of like medium-sized arenas around the country. So maybe that's a tip of where they're considering running. So we'll see what happens there.
Omega Jericho is the main event. Like, I don't think, you know, because it's already been done, I think that hurts it. And, you know, I think there's a certain irony towards the level of worship Jericho gets because he's involved with this promotion and not WWE. there's a lot of irony there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a year and a half ago, it was a hot program in Japan. They did it at the Tokyo Dome. There'll be interest. I mean, I think it'll help them sell some tickets. And now, like, if Kenny hadn't signed, which again, I expected him to sign, but if for some reason Kenny hadn't signed, I would have been worried about them selling out 50,000 tickets. Maybe that sounds crazy. I don't know. But I felt like they needed a little more star power than they had, especially during the ticket party tonight, during that middle section when it really kind of got to a lull and was kind of underwhelming, I thought. So,
Well, it was long. It was, an hour press conference.
yeah, but there was just more I mean, I guess it was probably a little over a half hour, the one they did in Jacksonville in the parking lot. There was more excitement about that one. Maybe it's because it was the first one, and I don't know. But that one seemed more exciting to me than this one did. But then again, they'd already unveiled some of the roster, in Jacksonville before they got to Las Vegas, so that changed things a little bit.
I mean, again, this was I'll call it a show, for lack of a better term, built around surprises that actually weren't surprises. Like, I don't think anyone that watched this press conference was surprised by anything, despite the fact that everything was billed as a surprise.
Yeah.
And I mean, Conrad with his, Tony Schiavone-esque, I don't know if you picked that up from Tony from the podcast. That wasn't part of the show. I mean, come on, Conrad.
You're talking about when the Bucks got attacked. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, that wasn't part of the show.
Yeah, and he has the successful podcasting gig, so I can't knock him there. He's way more successful podcaster than I am. But man, as a broadcaster and a wrestling show, I don't know. And the way he brings out the podcast lines there, the rumor and innuendo, I don't know how many times he said that. We got to ditch that.
It's a popular catchphrase. I'll tell you, he has a very nice smile,
though. That's true. So does Mr. Justin Joint when he's not grumpy, I got to say. seen it on the billboard. So guys, what do we think? Let's transition to WWE. So I think the main thing we wanted to talk about was the continuing evolution of the women's match that's going to main event WrestleMania most likely, and what happened with Becky and Ronda this week and Charlotte's involvement and everything. And so they're really working. There's been a lot of talk about this obviously on Twitter and everything with the whole Steve Austin comparisons, and they're really working that same kind of story that Austin had in '97 with "we can't let you compete, you're injured." That's what we saw with Becky this week when Stephanie came out. Becky refused to be examined by the doctor. She got suspended, right? She shows up on SmackDown the next night, goes face to face with Triple H. Maybe Becky Triple H should main event WrestleMania. That was a pretty awesome segment, I thought. What do you think about all this, Kyle?
Both segments were great. And I mean, it is liberally being borrowed from the Austin angle in '97, but that was led to the most successful period in company history. So if you're going to borrow something, why not from there? I like what they're doing with the worked knee injury. I thought Triple H in particular was absolutely tremendous in getting the angle over. I mean, although it's funny, there was one thing. Did you catch it that he did? Had he said it to one of the internet's favorites, would people have been up in arms when he just kind of told Charlotte to take a hike?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot? He told Becky to take a hike, whining and complaining that would have ensued. Like, it was fine because Charlotte was kind of being a chicken shit heel anyway, and it worked. And the issue was between Triple H and Becky, but how many times do we hear the Meltzer? Again, you're making the talent subservient to the authority figures. We hear that a lot. He didn't hear that particular, but he did a great job kind of conveying, and he really healed himself with his whole take on what he thought Becky's character was doing. I thought it was excellent. So obviously the big focus now is, will Charlotte be added to the match? And the irony is, I don't think it matters at all. I think it's if people are gonna make it a hill to die on, I just think they're using the wrong hill, because at the end of the day, you're getting the same result anyway. Yeah. Becky Lynch at the end of WrestleMania is going to be the women's champion. And one last point I really like. Obviously, we've got 2 months till WrestleMania. Is that we've got a very clear-cut main event for this WrestleMania. After the last 2-3 years, it's kind of been like, what's the main event of this show? What should go on last? WrestleMania works best when it has a clear-cut main event, and there is no doubt what the main event of this show is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
No matter if it's a triple threat or a one-on-one.
Yeah. So we've been really high on Becky Lynch on this show for a long time, way before this, current explosion with her character. But I got to say, one of the people I know who's always been really high on Becky Lynch is Justin. So I want to get his thoughts on how this is progressing, what he thinks about Charlotte possibly being added to the match, and what did you think of the segments this week, Justin?
Well, being sick, I didn't get to watch them. I just kind of read about what was happening, and from what I read, you guys kind of already pointed it out. It's very familiar to Stone Cold but it's good. It seems to be working. As long as the crowd is reacting to it, that's all you can really ask for. I am not near as down on triple threats as a lot of other people. I like them. And I think if this is going to main event, I think adding Charlotte in there to add as much star power as possible to it is a good thing. And I listened to last week's episode, and I really like the point of, if Ronda's going away, you really do want that second person in there to add at least a little bit of mystery to who's going to end up winning the match. Because otherwise you end up with a Goldberg Lesnar situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if Ronda's leaving, for sure, I think you have to have Charlotte involved to avoid that situation. If Ronda's sticking around, I would much rather have it be a singles match. But
Becky Lynch being in there is going to prevent that from going off the rails and being like Goldberg. There's no way that this turns into that.
So
if it was a singles match,
yes, no. Becky Lynch being in the match, like the reason that deteriorated the way it did, I assume you're talking about the WrestleMania 20 version, is no one liked any WrestleMania 20. Both guys were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was no viable people. I mean, the whole key to WrestleMania is Becky Lynch getting the title, and regardless, she's getting the title. So people are going to be happy about that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to, do you have any concern that Vince McMahon does a reversal when he thinks maybe the ending gets a little too predictable? No, not even maybe put it on Charlotte.
I think they'd be insane to do that. Admittedly, I thought there was zero chance Brock Lesnar was walking out of the Superdome last year with the title, but no.
I could see it. I could definitely see it if it becomes. We got 2 months of build, and it's so obvious for 2 months. I mean, I could see him. I could see it happening.
And I mean, if what they did and who they put her with in those two segments didn't clue you into how high they are on Becky Lynch, I don't really know what else they can do.
So let me ask you. So do you guys, because this has been the big criticism, and I referenced to this.
And the triple threat, by the way, that if with the whole triple threat debate, the match probably actually would be better, like as a match with Charlotte in there, as opposed to just a standard one-on-one match.
Yeah, possibly. But I wanted to say, do you guys have any problems with them like borrowing stories they've used in the past? Because this has been the big criticism on Twitter with the Austin comparison. And it is almost like a direct rewrite. What do you guys think about people criticizing that they shouldn't be doing the exact same thing? Do you have any problems borrowing a storyline that worked 22 years ago, Justin?
No, because it's not for just the people that grew up in the Attitude Era. I would make a pretty safe assumption that pro wrestling has been doing this since, the very beginning. I mean, everything is a ripoff of something else.
Yeah. Kyle?
I mean, what did Cornette call it? The 7-year rule? I mean, this is 22 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I agree. I don't have any problems with it. I think people borrow from
it's
past
doing really well. And it's really good. So,
I mean, how often do they remake movies in Hollywood? Same story, different actors, but people still want to see it. See how that movie goes with the new actors. So
I liked the all women Ghostbusters. I'm not gonna lie.
The latest remake I saw was A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Great movie. You guys seen that?
No.
Not yet.
Definitely need to see it. Very good. So, but yeah, that's the point is they remake stuff all the time. I have no problem with it. It's been 2 decades. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right. So moving on down our agenda here. I guess we probably should have hit this a second ago, but there's been all these rumors about WWE talents interested in AEW. Sometimes I think people are kind of stretching with these reports because, like, obviously people are interested in AEW. You can't have a report, label it an exclusive that a big star is open to signing with AEW, because I'm sure most of the big stars would be somewhat open to it. They would be interested in what they have to say. So the story going around this week, and then I think Fightful had that it was Randy Orton, or Randy Orton had said something like, yeah, he'd be open to listening to them. Like, I'm not really sure that's a story. I think, like I said, a lot of people would be interested in it.
Who was it? Was it the Wrestle Votes?
It was Wrestle Votes, yeah.
Was the first one that said, "Oh, that that AEW's reached out to a Hall of Fame caliber WWE person," which I think is tampering, by the way. But maybe that's a different story for a different day. And then, yeah, Sean Ross Sapp, he later broke it on his podcast that the person indeed was Randy Orton, which I thought was hilarious, to be honest.
But the way Sapp wrote it was that, I'm looking for that original tweet right now, was that, like, Orton just expressed to, like, fellow WWE guys backstage, like, yeah, I might be interested. It wasn't really that AEW was reaching out to him, which would definitely be legal tampering. You can't do that. Yeah. That'd be illegal. Their report said, let's see, seems like the first real shot has been fired. Source says AEW has made an outstanding offer to a current big-time WWE superstar, an offer that is almost too good to turn down. Things are really about to get interesting. So I think that wasn't exactly accurate. Yeah, that was the WrestleVotes tweet. So I don't think they've actually made an offer to him.
Shots fired.
I'm going to trust Sean Ross Sapp on this one versus the WrestleVotes Twitter.
Well, Randy has a relationship with Cody Rhodes. I mean, I think it was less than 2 weeks ago he tweeted at him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, something about they missed working together or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I could see that happening. And we've talked on the show before about AJ. Now, that was another thing going around. Some site, it wasn't like a major site, but some site had a story out there marketing an exclusive that AJ had reached an agreement on a new contract, that it wasn't signed yet, but they had reached an agreement. He was sticking with WWE. And again, like, alarms go off in my head, because if he hasn't signed it yet, you're basically just reiterating what everyone expects anyways. Like, everyone's expecting AJ Styles to remain with WWE. So you just write down what everyone expects and label it an exclusive story. Not sure that's actually a story. And then AJ gets on his Twitter page and shot that one down himself.
He's been doing that a lot. He didn't really like that Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, that was the next one.
And by the way, Randy Orton, what an absolute beaut he was this morning, saying, "Hey, AJ, how's your hernia?"
Dave is really, I think you started a trend on this podcast, Kyle. Everyone's shooting at Dave.
The WWE is going to take shots at Dave whenever they can. I mean, Dave was it was funny. Dave was like, "Well, that's what the injury report that they gave me said."
Since when does WWE send out injury reports?
That was kind of intriguing. I had no idea until this week that Meltzer got a injury report from WWE. I assume he's not making that up. I mean, that would be an odd thing to do.
Yeah. My God, I hope Justin Joint keeps his pants on over there. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, all that talk about a hernia.
Those of you watching on YouTube, Justin just sat down his laptop for a second. We saw his lower half, but luckily he's wearing sweatpants, I believe. Yeah.
Carry on. Anyway, I want to talk about what's far more interesting here, that because it's going to apply to a lot of people. Like you said, we heard with the Usos, and some people are running wild with this freaking Undertaker. I mean, come on.
Just Mark Calloway.
Yeah. My God, he's in the Impact Zone. But, and people were trying to connect the dots because there was reports he's not working Mania this year, whatever. But anytime we're going to see these things, such and such is kind of unhappy with their spot in WWE, might they be the next one to go to AEW? Two things to consider. One, that's a very good bargaining chip if you're an existing WWE talent. Mm-hmm. Two, it speaks to a concept that I've mentioned each of the last 2 weeks on this program, and we'll mention now for a third straight week. Freedom of movement has been completely missing from wrestling for 20 years. Look at a guy like Randy Orton, and it's not even like 30% that Randy Orton would do AEW. I thought a lot of people were having fun on Twitter that night, though, after that story broke, talking about, how funny it would be to see Randy in AEW. And there were a lot of funny memes. But Randy Orton's career arc, say what you will about Randy Orton. really the only person in the history of wrestling who can share his career arc is John Cena. 16, Randy came on the main roster in 2002. So it was mid 2002, if I remember, fall. It was after the brand split. So we're looking at 16 plus years, same company, basically at the same level. Now he's vacillated face and heel where John's basically been a baby face the whole time. But, so that just didn't happen in the old, quote unquote, old days. So, when people all of a sudden, oh, Randy Orton, that'd be fun. It speaks to the lack of freedom of movement that has existed in wrestling for a long time.
It's interesting when you talk about the past like that, because when you compare like the time periods, to those 80s and 90s periods, and you think about how long some of these guys have been around WWE now, and it just dwarfs the runs that anyone had back, like whether it's Brett or Shawn or of course Hogan, Macho, like, man, they've been around so much longer now than those guys ever were in the old WWF. And so I don't know, it's just crazy how it works out.
Because Vince doesn't want to let people go.
Yeah.
Because he gave up on Hogan, Savage, and Piper too early. Now, ultimately, that wound up screwing WCW because they didn't move on from him. I mean, Vince was actually right to move on from all those guys. He just probably did it a couple years too early. And I'm not saying Randy Orton's in a position where he is like over the hill and done and can't have good matches, because he can, clearly, if he's motivated. But, like I said, Randy Orton and John Cena are two truly unique people in the history of this business in terms of career arcs. Because no one, name anyone else in the history of wrestling that stayed with the same promotion for 16 years.
Yeah, well, if you look at...
I guess Vern Gagne in the AWA, if you want to talk, or like Fritz von Erich down in Texas, if you want to talk about guys that the promotion, and John would fit more of that bill than Randy, to be honest, because the WWE, for more or less, has been built around John Cena.
Yeah. Outside of like in there from that older generation, like Taker and Shawn and Hunter. Yeah. Then.
And Taker, but here's the thing: how long has Taker been a part? Taker's been part-time basically since 2010.
Yeah, last year he wrestled more matches than he has since 2015, and in between there he was wrestling like once or twice a year.
Yeah, he worked Mania, and Triple H is an executive. So
yeah, well, I was gonna say, drawing the comparison, if you take Hogan's run with WWF, if you start with like when he won the title from the Iron Sheik in the Garden in '84, you take that entire WWF run, add on his WCW run, combined, I think Randy Orton's been with WWE right now longer than that entire run, WWF and WCW combined. Pretty crazy to think about.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Well, 84, you're talking January of 84, and he left WCW television for good at that Bash of the Beach angle, right? Because he got in the lawsuit with Russo. He didn't come back after that, did he?
Was that 2000?
Yeah, in July of 2000. I don't think he appeared after that, right?
Right.
So it would be 16 and a half years, which is basically where Orton is now.
Yeah, craziness. So if we think about guys on the WWE roster that we'd like to see in AEW, Justin, is there anyone that really pops out to you that you would like to see make a jump?
Actually, Randy Orton. I almost more than anybody, he needs something new or fresh to do and just get away from WWE, do something different. Plus, it'd be really interesting. It'd be like seeing Great Khali on 205 Live with him and all those tiny indie wrestlers.
True. That's definitely true for a lot of them. What about like the Revival, Usos, any of them guys? Because they mentioned tonight they're going to put a greater emphasis on tag team wrestling.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing that they've been talking about. Yeah, the Usos, you talk about again, been in the same place for a long time. And, they don't get a main. So you could understand that because they'd be put almost into a main event position immediately.
Yeah.
In AEW. And I'd like to really see them work the Young Bucks in AEW too, because I think they'll eat up the Young Bucks. And
I think pretty much anyone on the 205 Live brand too. It'd be in a much more featured position on AEW. Like anyone on that roster would be great.
I'll tell you what, love Drew Gulak on NXT this past week.
Justin, you want to share your highlight from NXT this week?
Oh my God. I was going to criticize your intro into this podcast, because it should actually be, welcome to Top Rope Nation, the official fan podcast of Eric Bugenhagen. The next great big thing.
Maybe I should add that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start scripting that intro, because sometimes I just have no idea what I'm gonna say, and if I could just put his name in there and write it down so I read it correctly, maybe it'd be solid every week. Yeah,
I watched it twice last night.
I have not watched it yet. I turned on NXT and I watched the first little bit of the show, and I was kind of like you. I was just wiped yesterday and I could not stay up and I kept falling asleep, and I eventually went to bed. But I am going to watch it. I researched him a little bit today. I think we were texting about it, with his background with his YouTube channel and lifting and everything. And it seems like an interesting character. So a lot of people are pretty high on him.
Yeah, I mean, the people like JJ Williams and stuff that attend all those house shows have been giving him like really positive reviews in the previous week or two before that. So I wasn't surprised to see him get over. I cannot wait for him and Elias to feud on the main roster. When Elias, the artiste, is just disgusted.
Assuming he's not still feuding with Jeff Jarrett.
Also, if you do fire up that NXT episode, check out Matt Riddle versus Drew Gulak.
Oh yeah, that was so
fantastic.
Good. Yeah, I was going to mention that too. After the Bugenhagen Gulak match, Riddle comes out and the old catch point explodes, if you will, going back to the Evolve days.
Oh yeah. Kyle, we were going to hit on the earnings report a little bit, and I kind of glossed over it a little bit. You mentioned you wanted to talk about it a little bit. Anything really stand out to you? Because WWE released their fourth quarter earnings report, fourth quarter of last year, 2018 today. Very profitable, as always. Was it one of their biggest profits ever? Was it their biggest profit ever?
Yeah, it was number one. It was the most profitable year in company history.
Yeah. So
which was as awesome as that is, it was not surprising.
Right. And then their network subscriptions are pretty flat, right? About where they've been.
It was 1.5. They're not announcing a number after Mania, which was interesting. A lot of people took it the way where they're like, we're so happy with the numbers for the network that we're not going to be announcing it anymore.
That's weird, because they'd always inflate it for Mania, get all the free users on board.
Well, that, and has the WWE ever missed an opportunity to pat itself on the back?
No, that is pretty bizarre.
Yeah, so that was on. So here's the thing. Whatever the press conference we just saw was the press conference, this earnings report was the earnings reports, in that had a lot of fun stuff. Maybe you were excited, you should be excited, but it was all very predictable. Because of the Saudi Arabia shows, of course it was going to be their most profitable year. I mean, you look at quarter 2 and quarter 4, which is when they ran the Saudi Arabia shows, there's a huge $50 million spike in each of those quarters.
Yeah.
There you have it. I think the lesson here is WWE has done something no other promotion in history has been able to do. They make money despite or in spite of creative. It doesn't matter, really. Every other wrestling promotion in history before the modern WWE, their success was tied to creative. This one has found revenue streams that support it, where they do not necessarily need to rely on creative.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier you thought for AEW the brand was going to be the drawing card there, which it probably will be in the early days for sure, and then they'll have to sustain it with whoever's on the roster and the stories that they got going and everything. But yeah, that's been the case for WWE for a long time. Is the brand's really been the draw, So I mean, we see that in the earnings report. I was trying to find the highlights here to find if there was anything really that we should.
There really is. I mean, the bottom line, look, it's the most profitable year ever. That's great, but it's because, it's like very obvious why. And I think the big thing is that it was $50 million per show they got from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, true.
So, they're just going to keep, when the Fox TV deal kicks in next year, and they're doing more shows in Saudi Arabia, they're going to keep making money hand over fist. People who want to, do podcasts and write blogs about the demise of the WWE being imminent, you better pay attention to facts, because I don't think that's the case. And, Fox, they did their conference call talking about the relationship with WWE. And it seemed like it's very serious. It's going to be stuff on FS1. Maybe NXT goes to FS1.
That's been the rumor for a while.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I mean WWE. I mean, you say what you will about their creative if you don't like it or whatever, but financially they're in very good shape with these revenue streams.
Something I thought was interesting was the Fox executive saying that SmackDown on Friday nights is not permanent. Did you guys see that? That was yesterday, maybe. Said the Friday night thing is not a permanent move, that they'll probably move at nights eventually. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's been all the talk is SmackDown moving to Friday nights and how that's going to affect the schedule that WWE works. And there was some talk about how that would mess up like pay-per-view weekends, especially the big ones that they do with like Survivor Series, Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam.
I mean, SmackDown. To be honest with you, it's actually better for SmackDown to be a lead-in for that weekend, because I think those 4-day weekends when SmackDown's bringing up the rear. I mean, I've done, I know you guys did well, and actually, I jetted, to be honest with you, in Orlando. I didn't stay for SmackDown, but I mean, people are gassed by that point a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
But SmackDown, when it's that fourth show of the weekend.
Yeah.
So I think it'll actually help SmackDown to be like a strong go-home show.
Yeah. So do we think they would move it to like Thursdays or back to Tuesday? Any ideas here? Because reportedly AEW is looking at Tuesday night.
I have I mean, that all depends on Fox's programming.
I would think if it's not going to be Friday, you would think almost certainly it's going to be Thursday.
No, because they have football.
That's true.
That's NFL Network, isn't it?
No, because that was the big
Fox.
deal.
Yeah,
that was the big deal, because with Friday is that they're going to tease it on the NFL broadcast.
Unless they do it tape, then if it's not going to be Friday, I can't see it being any other night than Tuesday, because then what do? You have the middle of the week, Wednesday, you run a live show, and that completely messes up their routing with the weekend house shows. Then the workers don't get any time off at all.
I would be surprised if it actually moves. I mean, they're going to say I would be surprised if it moves from Friday. Friday seems like, if it's going to be on a network TV, it seems like a good night, because Fox probably doesn't have. I don't watch Fox's primetime programming at all, so I have no idea right now what show that that Matt LeBlanc comedy, alleged comedy. I mean, whatever they've got on there, but it's I'm sure they don't put their heavy hitters on Friday night.
I think they should move it to Mondays to compete with USA's Raw.
Yes. Then they can really simulate competition within their own company. Yeah. I don't know. I guess there is logistical problems with Friday night, though, because like I said, those extended weekends when they have access and everything, that's going to be a problem to do a Friday night SmackDown show, but we shall see. Or like WrestleMania weekend when you got the Hall of Fame and you got NXT. How's that work? So those are problems for them to deal with.
Sure. That is an interesting one. Yeah.
So how do you format that? I don't know, but if you move it from Friday, I don't know what you do then, other than if it's not Thursday, you think it has to be Tuesday. So we shall see. Guys, before we wrap it up this week, there's one more topic we're going to talk about, and I haven't really talked with you guys about this in advance, so I'm going to just throw kind of a historical question at you and get you thinking. As we talked about WrestleMania and the build toward main events, I'll give you a second to think. I'm going to tell you right now, and then I'm going to explain a few things. So in a second, I'm going to ask you, if you think back to your younger days watching pro wrestling and the build to WrestleMania, we know how hot this angle is right now with Becky and Ronda. What are some of your biggest memories or best memories as far as WrestleMania main events that you got the most excited for, and that the build was awesome and you really anticipated for weeks, if not months and months? So I'll ask you in a second. I'll let you guys think. I did want to say next week.
I love how you think that I actually need to think about this and spend like 7 hours.
I don't want to put you on. I don't want to put you on the spot. So I'll let you toss that around in your mind for a second. But I do want to say next week we will be doing our Elimination Chamber preview show, as usual, the week before a pay-per-view. Crazy that pay-per-view is already coming up. Then we got Fastlane in March, and then WrestleMania,
which I'll be at live, by the way.
Really? And you didn't invite myself and Justin to attend with you? Awkward silence. Maybe, just maybe, we would have. Now you'll never know because you didn't ask. I tell you,
that was a bad play. That was a bad play. There was a situation, tickets. I don't know. I just said yes.
Oh my goodness! I'll remember this one. Kyle Ross
Oh boy.
Well, okay. So, anyways, we're going to be doing the preview show for Elimination Chamber next week. We may have a guest on with us. It's in the works right now. I don't want to announce anything yet, but it's a guy I've been wanting to get on the show for a long time. Been talking with him, so hopefully he can join us next week. We'll have 4 of us on.
My God.
Yeah, and Chris Van Vliet last week, which was a great show. He's got some good new interviews up on his YouTube channel. I think he just put up one with Mickey James yesterday or today. He had a Baron Corbin one up right after he did Top Rope Nation last week, where Baron Corbin said he wants a head tattoo like Bam Bam Bigelow. I think he talked about that on the show with us, and then the video went up, so that was interesting. But check out Chris's stuff as always, and then next week hopefully we'll be joined by another guest, and we'll be breaking down Elimination Chamber. All right, so Kyle's pretty sure of his choice here. So Justin,
I don't know. I could have just babbled incoherently. Is all I said. I'm actually whittling it down. So
I'm gonna go to Justin first. So thinking back to those WrestleMania builds, the main events, what were some of your more anticipated WrestleManias?
You know, it's weird because 3 popped up in my head right away, and they are all babyface versus babyface main events.
Interesting.
Obviously, The Rock versus Stone Cold, WrestleMania 17.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that one's not even so much the build as it was just the promo package for that match.
Made it sound good.
The Iron Man match, WrestleMania 12, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. I know it was really cheesy, but that match was so exciting to me that's what got me back into wrestling after a hiatus. And then as a kid, it just seemed unfathomable to see Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 6. Which once again, that one didn't really have much of a build, just like a little interaction at Royal Rumble and some run-ins at some other matches. But those are ones that just felt huge to me.
Nice choices. Kyle?
Hogan Andre was like the first big match that I ever saw built as a wrestling fan. So that will always hold us. But like, I just remember watching the whole Piper's Pit. Like that would have been like within the first 2 to 3 months I watched wrestling. So I just remember watching the whole stuff go down in Piper's Pit and just like having my mind blown at this idea that this match was going to happen at some time. And I remember like asking my uncle or something. I was like, man, did you hear who won Hogan or Andre? He's like, Hogan, he slammed him. And I was like, so that always holds a special place. Hogan Warrior, it's funny that Justin mentioned that. That was probably my first smarky comment I ever made was the build up to that match where my dad, who's not a big wrestling fan at all, came down and he saw us watching. He's like, Hogan Warrior. He's like, who do you think's going to win this? I'm like, oh, I hope Warrior, but stupid Hogan always wins. So there's that. And guess what? I was right. Warrior won. Oops, that didn't work out though. And then a more modern example. I'll tell you, I really look forward to Daniel Bryan winning the title WrestleMania 30. Really don't want to talk about who I look forward to winning the title WrestleMania 20. That was probably scratch that one from the record.
The man who shall not be named.
Yes, and you know, 2 main events that don't. I don't know if personally these would be high for me, but 2 main events that do not get enough love, I think, in the pantheon of WrestleMania main events are the first Austin Rock main event at 15. Now, that show itself is like the most dismal undercard of any Mania ever. It just got the stench of Russo all over it. But I watched the Raw from the night after Survivor Series 98, like earlier this week, or at least the Austin Rock interactions, the opening segment and the match they had, which basically set the stage for them to do a rematch at WrestleMania. Unbelievable stuff there. And then Triple H Batista does not get enough love as a WrestleMania main event. That was a tremendous build.
I would also throw out there, and this once again just be because of the promo, Triple H and Randy Orton for WrestleMania 25. That has a really good promo going into that match.
That was
the one with AC/DC.
Yeah, that was the last time I was really into anything Randy Orton was doing on TV, to be honest. But that was a really good angle. I actually really enjoyed
The
that.
only problem with that one, though, is that, like, with every passing week, I actually got less interested in the match.
I don't know. I was pretty. I had sustained interest personally, but yeah, I thought it was good stuff. For me,
Oh, and Sean and the streak versus career. Sean versus that was very, very well done. Sean and Taker.
yeah. Oh yeah. If I'm thinking back to childhood, I'm not. A lot of those early ones I saw years later, so I can't really say like in the moment I was excited for them. I kind of vaguely remember watching the stuff leading Savage and Hogan. I think if I was older at the time, that was really well built. I would have been pretty pumped for that. And I think Hogan Warriors, the first one that I really remember being excited for as a kid. And then I think Flair Savage, I was really interested in what was going on there with the Liz connection and everything, even at a young age. But then that didn't even actually main event the show. I guess it was a double main event. But the first one that I really got hooked on and was talking to people at school a lot about and stuff was definitely the Iron Man match that Justin mentioned in '96. I thought all the promos for that leading up to it were so good, and I loved like the training montages they did, even though Brett joked about them years later.
I was saying Bret Hart. It's not like it just didn't.
Yeah, see, I guess as a teenager, I didn't find any problem with him like running on the ice. I just thought it was cool. There's the rugged hitman up in Canada. It's cold out and he's running outside. I didn't think as deeply about it.
Brett was very bitter.
Justin's nodding his head. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought there's Bret Hart jogging outside in freezing weather. I didn't think it was silly.
Yeah, I mean, I had a poster on my wall of Bret Hart in his full Canadian tuxedo out in the Canadian wilderness, hanging from my wall.
I know the one you're talking about.
I just think it's fascinating that both of you talk about like everyone talking at school, but actually no one at my school was talking about WWE at that point.
Well, not like everyone, but I had a few friends that were into it that we would talk about it. Yeah. So that one, I remember going to school the next day talking about how for an hour, I sat there listening to the scrambled channel because I didn't get the pay-per-view. So that one I love the Jose Lothario, rest in peace, stuff they were doing with Sean and training in San Antonio and everything. And then 2 years later, I thought the build to Michaels and Austin was awesome with Mike Tyson. I was jacked for that one. And then to echo kind of what Kyle was saying a second ago, the first Rock Austin match, the build to that was, I don't know, it was kind of underwhelming because it was like one of the most predictable WrestleMania main events of all time, I thought at the time. But then 17 was awesome. Like Justin mentioned, the Limp Bizkit My Way video was tremendous and really enjoyed that. So
although other than that and the sit down Jim Ross did, there wasn't a ton to that. Remember Deborah is the Rock's manager?
Yeah.
There's something that people do not talk about with WrestleMania 17 enough. I think creatively and build-wise, it is one of the actually worst built WrestleManias of all time.
I think just the videos were so well done that's something that romanticizes everything for sure. But I think I was underwhelmed with 15 2 years earlier, and WrestleMania 15 as a whole just wasn't a great show. And so I was kind of excited what they could do the second time around. Plus, Austin had just missed all that time being gone for surgery. So there was the excitement of him coming back and everything. So, but I will say in recent years, this Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey match is right up there as far as the excitement. Still behind what happened with Bryan, though, at 30. That was, in recent years, that was one of my more favorite builds, I think. So, any other comments from you guys before we wrap this up?
No one mentioned Roman Reigns, Triple H.
No, for good reason.
So I felt like this week WWE television was kind of like placeholding, and nothing like too exciting happened outside of the Becky Ronda stuff, and just kind of treading water until they get to the go-home shows next week. So I didn't really have a lot to talk about with TV this week. So we're just kind of throwing topics at the wall here, kind of a random episode of Top Rope Nation, but hopefully you guys enjoyed tuning in. Any other comments you guys had before I wrap it up?
Come on, Indiana.
Eric Bugenhagen forever.
Yeah, there you go. I did want to mention, by the way, I haven't mentioned this in a long time, but we are live streaming right now on Patreon. And so we put this YouTube video out on Fridays for everybody to watch, as well as the podcast. But if you want to watch us record it live, including the bloopers, you're not seeing this, but before we went on the air, I messed up the intro. I had to re-record it. If you want to chat along with us as we record the episode, you can go to patreon.com/TopRopeNation. If you sign up to become a patron there, you can get access to the exclusive live cast every single week. There's other bonus material that we have done in the past. Top Rope Nation Classics. We talked a lot about classic wrestling tonight. We did 2 of these last fall, late summer, where we reviewed some old wrestling shows, SummerSlam 91 and SummerSlam 97. And so those are exclusively available on Patreon. And we wanted to do more of those, but honestly, we don't really have a huge following on Patreon yet. So to kind of kickstart that, I put out a tweet earlier today. There's different levels you can donate to the show if you like what we're doing to show your support. There's a $1 tier, $1 a month, $5, $10, and so on. I said today, if you like the show and if you join the 1 month $10 tier, I will go ahead and send you a free Top Rope Nation shirt in the mail. Now, these shirts usually are $20. So you sign up for $10 at Patreon, you get that t-shirt, which Kyle is wearing right now on the broadcast. Actually, you can see it down there on the YouTube version. You'll get one of those shirts, plus you'll get all the exclusives that you would always get being a patron, just to kind of jumpstart this thing, get some of you guys signed up, and maybe we can start putting out more content, more exclusive content. But weekly, you always get that live cast. So if you're interested, patreon.com/TopRopeNation, you can get that shirt. This is February only if you sign up at the $10 tier. All the information's there. Of course, follow us on Twitter at Top Rope Nation. You can find me at Historical Ryan. Kyle's at TRP Kyle, and Justin's at Justin Joint, JOYNT.
Fuck, man. If you give me $1, I'll talk about all 34 WrestleManias in a row.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a good week for us. Chris being on last week really, got our exposure up there. We love having you guys rate the show. If you go on iTunes, we will read your review on air. That's one of the other things we do, which, by the way, I think someone left us a review today. I should have read that on the air. I'll read it next week. So between now and then, leave us a review on iTunes. I'll read it on the air next week as part of our Elimination Chamber preview show. And so expect that next Friday morning. So we will talk to you guys then. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for tuning in to episode 84 of Top Rope Nation. Catch you next time.
I just signed with AEW.